Doja Cat's latest album, Scarlet, is finally here, and after a couple of listens, I have some thoughts. Overall, it is a solid album, an enjoyable listen all the way through, and if you have listened to the singles that came out for the project, you do kind of have an idea of what it's going to sound like. That sound being more of a rap-centric album, where Doja Cat's mostly rapping, but with some of her more well-known attributes, such as like the more pop and singing sound. Now, that's not to say that these are not things that we got on previous Doja Cat songs and projects. Doja Cat has always been rapping and has always been singing. But, you know, this time it seems to lean more towards the rap side. With that said, as somebody who tends to like rap music more so than the pop side, I thought this album was going to be for me. Is this album for me? Maybe. I think I got to listen to it a few more times, really. But let's look through the track list and kind of talk it out. So the album starts out with Paint the Town Red, which is a really solid intro and makes sense to be the intro. It is the most popular song that came out for the album. I mean, the most popular single for sure by far. I mean, if you're looking on Spotify, it has 275 million plays versus 75 million on Attention, which is the next closest. So, you know, pretty poppin'. And it also makes a lot of sense as an intro song because it leads into the whole idea of Scarlet, which is like, I'm assuming, the persona that Doja Cat's putting on for this project, and the whole, I guess, look of her being painted red, which presumably in blood. So it makes sense there. This then goes into Demons, and I still don't really care for Demons. Now, that is very much more of a rap sort of song, but it has one of those things in it that I don't like on a lot of the rap songs on this project, and just in general, actually. The 808s are a little bit too harsh for me, at least because, I mean, I was listening on headphones, so it was a more isolated experience, I would say. When I listened to it on a speaker, it wasn't that bad, so your mileage may vary. I guess it depends on the fidelity of how you're listening to it as well. But I wasn't a big fan of that 808 on it. But, you know, regardless, Demons felt like a weird choice in general because it's so different from all the other singles that we got. And in the context of the album, it's very different from everything else as well. It's just like, I don't know, it feels out of place. This then goes into Wet Vagina, which I think is insane. Like, just it has the most insane hook where she says, "I bring the drip with wet vagina." I'm sure it's going to do well as far as like captions and probably on TikTok too. I'm sure there's going to be like a clean version of it, or I'm sure there is a clean version of it where she says something else and people are going to run with it. And as I was listening to it, I'm like, you know, this is definitely going to be one of those songs that guys will just be screaming the lyrics to in the car, but the second they get to like the stoplight, they're going to turn it down because of toxic masculinity. Meanwhile, I'm going to be singing my ass off. I love that song. But you know, like it just feels weird to have this right after Demons, because again, it is such a departure from that sound. Like Demons just kind of feels like it's shoehorned in there, which is another thing that I'll touch on as I go through the rest of the project. Next we have Fuck the Girls, which kind of also touches on a main theme of this project, where Doja Cat's essentially addressing her so-called fans, the people who only like Doja Cat for certain sounds and not necessarily her as a person or an artist. So, you know, it's been this dialogue that's been going on for a while, like, oh, Doja Cat's changed, Doja Cat's going crazy, she's a devil worshiper now, like all that sort of thing. And it's like, she's like, nah, this is just me. Like, y'all need to leave me alone. The song itself kind of focuses more on the whole, I guess, just beefs that people try to stir up with female rappers specifically, but just women in general, I feel. And yeah, like I said, this kind of has a nod to her haters in general, which is a theme that you hear throughout the project. that is not necessarily a bad thing, because, you know, if you're rapping, you know, that's one of your things. You got to show the haters that they're wrong. You got to talk to the haters. You know, it kind of makes sense. Then you get to Ouchies, which is another kind of follow-up to Fuck the Girls. You know, she's in a position where she feels like she deserves more, and I don't think I disagree with that. I think she deserves more attention and more recognition. But again, fuck the haters. Then you get to 97, which throws me off again because it's a song like Demons, but not in the same way as Demons. 97 is almost like she took the beat from Earl Sweatshirt and was like, nah, I'm gonna do something different with it. Like, because it is a very stripped down, like almost drumless beat, but it sounds good. Like, you know, I mean, it makes sense because Jay Versace did the production, or I'm assuming he did the beat. So kind of in his lane, but you know, it's weird. Like, it's not a sound that I would have expected her to do, and it feels out of place here because, again, you have Fuck the Girls and Ouchies, which are more poppy and higher energy, and then you have 97, which is just a straight up boom bap song. So, and then it goes into Gun, which, you know, is very much a different sound than 97. Maybe 97 was a reference to 97 Bonnie and Clyde. At least that's something that came to mind as I was talking. Anyways, Gun, Go Off, and Shut Show. I didn't really care for these songs as much. Go Off was good because, in my opinion, it was a very empowering song. Like, kind of a response to Fuck the Girls. Like, Fuck the Girls is a lot of like, oh no, you guys, like, all these girls want to do is beef and all that. Whereas Go Off is more of a, no, let's celebrate ourselves. Let's do all these things because we're great, essentially. Like, yeah, you go off. You do, you just toot your own horn sort of thing. Yeah, Shut Show, it had a really long intro and I wasn't really feeling it, but, you know, it was fine. Again, off of a couple listens, it might grow on me. Then we get to the song that I think everybody loves, and the song that we got the video for most recently, Agora Hills. And I really like the song because it has the themes that Doja Cat is very well known for, but it's also just done very well. It starts off like a pop focus song and then has some rap to it. And it's really focused on this relationship that she has with somebody, presumably her current boyfriend. I don't know. Talking about this relationship, can't be made public yet, and she keeps wanting to be like, hey, like, I wanna be with you. I wanna tie the knot. I wanna do all these things. And then like towards the middle of the track, it sounds like he kind of like pushes back and like, no, I don't want to do all that, or I don't want to be public and all that. Yeah, it was a little weird. But then also, before I forget, the voice that she had on her first verse was pretty cool. And then the line saying, boys be mad that I don't fuck incels, is hilarious. And then when we get to the second verse, is more of her rapping again, which again is more like the rest of the album. Like we get a bit of an intro that's more poppy, and then she starts rapping. But definitely the highlight of the album. Like, this is a huge point for the album, and I think for people like me, like where you kind of tune out between, I guess, Ouchies and Agora Hills, like Agora Hills is really a highlight there. Then we get Can't Wait, which is a very similar sound to Agora Hills. It feels like a follow-up, essentially. Like it's the second side of the same song, where Agora Hills is more of like a secret love that the other person might be like afraid of or shy, and she's like, okay, fine, I guess that's fine. But then Can't Wait is like, no, let me just fucking show you off, goddammit. Then we have Often, which, if I remember correctly, it's a pretty short song itself, like as far as like lyrics. Very much just a chorus, kind of interlude sort of song. The bass line is crazy though. Then we get Love Life, which is basically a very positive song where she's talking about all the things that she loves in life. And then the second verse has her kind of not addressing, but more like reassuring her team. Like, no, like, I understand that you guys are upset or concerned about what's going on and what I'm doing. Like, I get it, but this is me. This is what I got to do. Also, the chorus kind of sounds like J. Cole's False Prophets in terms of delivery. So that's kind of cool. Skull and Bones, pretty straightforward. She's addressing people who think she sold her soul to the devil. Then you have Attention, which is another one of the singles. And it makes sense to have that after Skull and Bones because she kind of plays on a lot of the ideas from it. And then Balut, which is technically the last song on the album and the last single for the album. It has a little bit of a slow flow to it. It is definitely more of a rap song as well. But, you know, solid. I do really like that song, and I'm going to listen to it more. It's probably like, as far as like a rap song, I think that's my favorite one off of this. And then you have WYM Freestyle, which is kind of a weird outro, if I'm being completely honest. But cool that it's there. A lot of people really like it. I just kind of felt indifferent about it. Now that we went through everything, overall, again, this is a solid album. But there are issues with the album. And my biggest issues are length and consistency / variety. So the album itself is almost an hour long. And in general, it is hard to maintain someone's attention and focus for that entire time. Like outside, like even with like shows, movies, whatever. Like it has to be very engaging for someone to sit and listen to the entire thing. Now, I admit there were lulls for me. Like I mentioned between Ouchies and Shut Show, like those songs were kind of whatever to me. Like, yeah, I listened to them and I have things to say about them, but I didn't really care as much. And, you know, maybe those are songs that are going to grow on me as I listen to the album some more. But, you know, that was definitely a lull there. With that said, the difference between this album and a lot of other albums that I listen to is that a lot of the other albums I listen to are not commercial and they are trying to make an album. They're trying to make a cohesive body of work, something that is kind of meant to be listened to as an album. Whereas this is more of a commercial album where the main purpose, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with artistry and like actually wanting to put out something cohesive. But at the end of the day, it is a major release. It is a commercial album. You want to get as many people listening to it as possible. So sequencing may not have been a focus, or, you know, like just having consistency through the project may not have been a focus. What I think we're going to get with this album is a lot of songs getting plays, but in a lot of different places. So you're going to have a lot of songs be played on more pop radio or pop playlists. You're going to have a bunch of different songs played on the more like pop rap playlists. And then you're going to have some songs played on the more like quote unquote underground rap playlist. So you're going to get it, you're going to hear it, but it's going to be in a variety of places and it's not going to be as an album. Now, again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is just something that I noticed with this project. You also don't get, like, you do and you don't get a lot of variety in terms of sounds. Like, you get a lot of variety in sounds because not every song sounds alike as you're going through it, but a lot of them have the same structure where you're getting a kind of poppy, more singing intro, and then you get to the rapping, which again, not a bad thing. It honestly reminds me of like the 90s aesthetic where you'd have an R&B feature and then an R&B song and then a rap feature on it, but it's just Doja Cat going back and forth. I do think to fix the length issue, you could very well cut a few songs out. Honestly, it felt like as I've been talking about it and listening to it and thinking about it, I feel like the run from Agora Hills all the way to the end could have been his own project. And you probably could have also just put out an EP for each sort of sound to it, which very well could be something that they do. I've seen it done before. I did say a bunch of things negative about it, but I do have a lot of positive things to say about it. Doja Cat's rapping well on here. And we kind of get what, at least what I expected for it on a lot of the songs, where it's a mix of her more poppy slash singing sort of sound mixed in with her rapping. And I mean, I appreciate her rapping because it's mostly aggressive sort of rapping. So having that like juxtaposition of more cheerful, playful sort of sounds with aggressive, I'm going to kill you raps, it works out. And it kind of, again, goes into that whole 90s aesthetic where you have like Ja Rule and Ashanti. But yeah, I think overall it is a good album. I do need to listen to it a few more times. This is, again, just initial thoughts and review. Yeah, I'm going to have to listen to it some more, especially because I'm going to that Doja Cat show. That's going to be fun. But I am looking forward to seeing what she does next with this project, or with her forthcoming albums. Like, is this something that she's going to carry on? Is she going to start doing rap features? Because, I mean, well, also on this album, there's no features at all, which is pretty impressive. Like, good for her. But is she going to go on a feature run? Is there going to be a deluxe? I did see something about a deluxe with the Alchemist beats, because apparently, you know, there was all that talk about Alchemist and Doja Cat, but I don't know. We just got to wait and see. But I think it's a solid album. Not necessarily an album that I want to listen to all the way through every time, but there's a lot of songs on here that I really do enjoy. But I think I've talked enough. I think I've rambled on enough. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this project and where you think Doja is going to go next. And yeah, what your favorite tracks are down there, because there's a lot to go through. And like, do you prefer the more rap side of Doja? Do you prefer the more pop side of Doja? Let me know. While you're down there, also subscribe to see more ramblings and content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.